or you may be dealing with all kinds of mundane knowledge. But all these words are nothing but simply what? Nonsense. It is simply glorified Maya. Because it does not help you to come closer to Krishna. Of course, we may have to do all these things as a practical necessity to earn our livelihood, to keep body and soul together. But when we start thinking that this is a very glorious thing I'm doing, that this is what is making humanity advance, that is called Maya. Only when we talk Krishna Katha, that makes sense. Everything else is nonsense. So that is Prajalpa. So devotee must avoid Prajalpa at any cost. Even amongst devotees we find, whenever devotees get together, the pak starts. So we have to be very vigilant to know that even among devotees we are talking irrelevant things. We are talking things that are connected either to Krishna or to a practical devotional service. Sometimes even when devotees are doing devotional service, they just go on chit-chatting, when it's not really necessary. So we have to learn to control this tongue. It is very voracious, very difficult to control. But the way to control it is simply to engage it in talking about Krishna. That's the idea. So that is Prajalpa. Then the next point Rupa Goswami says is Niyamagraha. Niyama means rules. Now the word Agraha or Agraha has two meanings. When used as Agraha, it means to be very much attached to something. And when it means Agraha, it means to be very, very detached from something. So Agraha and Agraha both have opposite meanings. So when they are used in the context of Niyam Agraha, they mean both things. Number one, to be very much attached to following the rules and regulations of the scriptures, not for the sake of your spiritual advancement. Agraha. Simply mechanically, ritualistically. There are many people who do this. Every day they will do so many pujas and this and that. They'll be very great sticklers, very meticulous in following small things, in dotting their I's and crossing their T's as far as all the rules and regulations are concerned. A little bit here and there and they will reprimand you very severely. But they don't know the purpose of these rules and regulations. So on the other hand, there are those who do Niyama Agraha, who go to the other extreme. They don't follow any rules and regulations. They are not concerned about scripture. They are not concerned about any discipline in their life. They simply want to act whimsically. No regulation. So, Rupa Goswami says you should do neither of them. You should follow rules and regulations and be strict in following them. But with proper understanding of the purpose of why it is being done. In a devotional mood, in this bhakti marg, it is very important to be conscious in what mentality or in what consciousness you are performing all these rules and regulations and doing your seva. Not simply mechanically. So the bhav is also very important. So we should not do either niyam agraha or niyam agraha. Neither of them. We should follow rules and regulations strictly in the proper mood. And then Rupa Goswami says, what is the other thing that is the fifth thing that is unfavorable for the development of devotional service? Janasangas. Janasangas means again the same thing, association of non-devotees, of people in general. The word jana in this case means the general people, people in the world. So this factor of not associating with non-devotees is so important that Rupa Goswami has said it in a negative way in the earlier point, and he's also saying it now in a positive way, that don't associate with non-devotees. So association of devotees is very important, but equally important is not associating with non-devotees. So that is Janasangas. And then finally, Laulyam. Laulyam means greed, excessive greed. Excessive greed for mundane things. We don't want to put in effort, but we want to get quick results. People want to go to the stock market today. Everyone wants to go there. Why? Because without working hard, you just get quick money. People want to go for lotteries. Why? Because you get quick money without any work. Even at the subtle platform, like some people want to follow the path of yoga for the sake of getting some siddhis. At a even subtler platform, there are people who are beyond this gross platform, but they want to become one with the Lord. So all these things are considered to be greed, laulyam. So we should abandon all these kinds of greed. So these 6 factors, Rupa Goswami says, are unfavorable to the development of our bhakti, and we should avoid them. So these are the first 2 factors in the 6 divisions of surrender. So we come back now to the teachings of Lord Chaitanya to Sanatana Goswami. So now we come to the third one. The third point is Rakshishyati iti Vishwaso, which means to have firm faith that only Krishna can protect me. This is very, very important. We have the idea that we can all protect ourselves with our strength, with our intelligence, with our police, with our army, with our bank balance, with our life insurance, with our watchmen, with our dogs. But actually, what is the truth? The truth is that only Krishna can protect. Nobody but Krishna. Last Sunday, we were discussing 2 wonderful examples of great devotees who exemplified in their life this one principle of having firm faith that only Krishna can protect. We were narrating the example of Draupadi when she was in the assembly hall at Hastinapura. The evil Dushasana was disrobing her in front of the whole assembly. And when Draupadi looked to all the people in the assembly for protection, nobody could give it to her. She had 5 husbands. All the husbands were very strong, exceptionally strong. But none of them could give protection. She was looking at each of them, one after the other. Each of them with imploring eyes. Are you not going to protect me now? Are you not going to protect me? But everywhere she drew a blank glance, or simply the eyes were turned down. Then she looked at Bhishma, who is considered the grandfather, the protector of the entire dynasty of the Kurus. Such a Maharathi, such a principal person, but he also was bound. He could not do anything. In this way, all the elderly members, very respected members, their gurus, everyone was there in the assembly hall, but no one could protect her. At that time, she realized that none of them were going to protect her, so she said, then I must protect myself. So she held on with all her strength to her clothes. But then she realized that her strength was insufficient. So then she realized Krishna was the only refuge, the only shelter. So she raised one hand to call out to Krishna, but the other hand was still holding on to the clothes. So finally, when she realized even that was not sufficient, then she realized nothing short of absolute surrender, nothing short of absolutely depending on Krishna for protection will do. So she raised both her hands and cried out for Lord Krishna to help her. And immediately, Lord Krishna came, incarnated in the form of her sari, and protected her. So Draupadi could understand that it was only Krishna who could protect. And not only that, there is another extra point here. Not only is it Krishna the only one who can protect, but the devotee has the faith that Krishna will protect. That's very important to understand. Not only is it that Krishna is the only one who can protect, but Krishna will definitely protect. That is the faith of the devotee. When Prahlad Maharaj was being persecuted by his father, he was thrown from a mountaintop. He was put into the fire. He was pierced with spears and other weapons. He was subjected to so much of black magic and voodoo. He was thrown into dungeons and prisons. So many atrocities and tortures were committed upon him. But not even once did he ever even call out to Lord Krishna to protect him. He didn't call out. Because he knew that Lord Krishna will protect me anyway. What do I need to call out to him for? Doesn't he know that I need the protection now? In fact, he said, okay, if Lord Krishna wants my body to be destroyed, so be it. If Lord Krishna wants my body to survive, then so be it. whatever the will of the Lord. So, he exemplified the second part of this one thing, that Krishna will protect. So the example for the first case, that only Krishna can protect, is Draupadi. And for the second case, that not only is it Krishna the only one who can protect, but Krishna will protect. The wonderful example is Prahlad. Then we come to the next one. Gopatritve Varanam Tatha. To have firm faith that Krishna is our real maintainer. We sometimes think that I am maintaining the family because I am going to earn the bread and butter. I am the bread earning member, and I am, because of my efforts, this is going on. Or somebody may think, because I am running the house so nicely, therefore this family is being maintained. Or some other grandfather may think, because of the way I am supervising the affairs of this family, everything is going on. So everyone thinks that I am maintaining it, and because of me the whole world is running. But what is the reality? The reality is Lord Krishna is the only one who is maintaining not only us, but everyone, and he is maintaining the entire creation. It is said, Nityo Nityanam Chetanas Chetananam Eko Bahunam Yo Vidadhati Kaman. There are many eternal living beings, but among them there is one supreme eternal conscious being. And he is the one who is maintaining all the others according to their karma. Eko Bahunam Yo Vidadhati Kaman. This is stated in the Katha Upanishad. So it states that Lord Krishna is the one who is the supreme maintainer of everyone. No one else. We may all be subsidiary maintainers. Krishna may empower us with the ability to maintain on his behalf. But when we think that I am actually maintaining and forget that that ability is coming from Krishna, that is called Maya. There is a wonderful story in this regard of one very elevated devotee who later on in his life went on to become Sridhar Swami. The Sridhar Swami, he is very renowned and well known in our devotional circles for his very, very erudite and devotional commentary on the Srimad Bhagavatam. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was very, very fond of his commentary, and he would love to read it again and again and again. And once when another devotee, his disciple, even in a gentle way, he happened to criticize Sridhar Swami's commentary, Lord Chaitanya got very angry and he chastised him. He reprimanded him very severely. So this Sridhar Swami, before he became a sannyasi, he was actually a householder. He was a family man. And he was very newly married, and his wife was pregnant. Somehow or the other at that time he decided that he wanted to take sannyas. And he approached his wife and revealed his mind. And naturally his wife was aghast. So finally she said, okay, but at least you must wait till a child is born. Then you may go. So he said, all right. So however it so happened that at the time of childbirth, the mother died. The mother died in childbirth and the child was born. The child was alive and well. So now Sridhar Swami, he was not Sridhar Swami at that time, but he was wondering, now what is to be done? I had a plan to go away to take sannyas, but now this helpless little child is in my hands. There is nobody else who can maintain it, who can look after it, who can feed it. So what is to be done? So the only thing is I have to stay and look after this child and postpone my plans now. So he began to look after this child. A few days passed, and one day he was just sitting and he was thinking and he was looking up, and his eyes went to the ceiling of the wall, and up there on the ceiling there was suddenly something that fell from the top to the ground, and he noticed that it was a small baby lizard that had just been born, just newly born baby lizard. And this baby lizard, when it fell to the ground, he was standing there. So Sridhar Swami was watching this baby lizard, and all of a sudden an insect came very close to the mouth of this baby lizard who was just born. Immediately, instinctively, what did the baby lizard do? He opened his mouth, stuck out his tongue, snuffed up that insect and put it back in the mouth and shut the mouth and swallowed it. So Sridhar Swami was thinking, who has taught this baby lizard to do this? To put out the tongue in this way and to catch this insect like this and pull it back inside and eat. So who is providing food to this baby lizard? The baby lizard is not doing any tapasya, he's not doing any devotional service. And who is providing food to him? How is it that this insect came along just at that time? It's not chance. Krishna is providing. Krishna is providing everything for this baby lizard who is just newly born. So if he's providing and maintaining everything, including this baby lizard, will he not maintain my little child? So firm was his conviction at that time that he simply, at that moment, just walked out of his house and never came back. But by the arrangement of Krishna, one Brahmin couple happened to be walking by just a few seconds later, and they heard the crying of a baby inside, and the house was empty, and they came inside hearing the cry, and they saw this very beautiful child there, nobody else to take care of it, and they said, yes, Lord Krishna has answered our prayers. For so long we have been childless, and we have been praying to him to give us a child, and now here he has sent us this child. So they took away the child very happily and looked after him. Because Sridhar Swami had that faith. Of course, it is not recommended that it should be done, that we should all do it now. But the example is just given to show how a pure devotee of the Lord has strong faith that actually it is only Krishna who is maintaining. And that's a fact. It is only Krishna who is maintaining. We are always so concerned about our family members and about our friends and relatives. Who will maintain them if I am not there? Or what will happen to me if he is not there or she is not there? Don't worry, Krishna is maintaining them even now. It is out of pride and illusion that we think that because of me that everything is going on. I am the head of the family, and because I am maintaining the family, everything is going on, and when I leave, everything will be lost. But no, even when I am present, still it is Krishna who is maintaining. And when I am gone, still Krishna will protect, Krishna will maintain. This is the understanding, this is the faith we should have, and we should lead our life according to that. So that is Gopatritve Varnam Tatha. Then Atmanikshepa. Atmanikshepa means to understand that we are not independent. That we may desire as much as we like, we may desire whatever we like, but we are completely dependent upon Krishna, utterly 100% for the fulfillment of those desires. You may desire today, I want to become a millionaire, I want to become Amitabh Bachchan, I want to become Sunil Gavaskar. You may desire as you like. But you cannot fulfill your desire until Krishna helps you. What to speak of your desire to become a millionaire, even your desire to lift your little finger, even your desire to blink your eyelids, even your desire to come to this temple is dependent for its fulfillment upon Krishna. Not that Krishna takes away your desire. Not that Krishna desires on your behalf. You must desire, and Krishna will fulfill, depending on how much you deserve. So therefore we should know, I am not independent. I am completely and utterly dependent on Lord Krishna in all circumstances for him to fulfill my desires. Lord Krishna states in the Bhagavad Gita, Upadrashtanumanta cha bharta bhokta maheshwaraha paramatmeti chapyukto dehismin purushah paraha. He says, I am seated in this heart as the Paramatma. And I am the supreme enjoyer, the supreme Lord, the supreme maintainer, and also the Anumanta. Anumanta means one who gives the Anumati. Anumati means permission. The sanction. I am the supreme sanctioner sitting within the heart. Lord Krishna is the Paramatma within the heart. He senses your desire. Okay, now you desire to lift your little finger. Okay, so I will now sanction, and I will pass on suitable instructions to your muscles and to your brain. Okay, activate your little fingers. Move. Yes. He's sanctioning. We cannot even do a milligram, we cannot lift a milligram of weight without the Paramatma from within enabling your body to do it. We cannot even think one good thought without the Paramatma enabling us to think that good thought. Because even the mind is a part of the body. Even the intelligence is a part of the body. It's subtle, but still it's a part of the material body. So therefore, a devotee who surrendered to the Lord understands that only Krishna can fulfill. Therefore he says, let thy will be done. I will simply try to do your will. Whatever you say I will do, and it's up to you to fulfill, whether you like it or not. Whatever you like, it's acceptable to me. This is the consciousness of the mood of a devotee who's surrendered to the Lord. And lastly, karpanyam. Karpanyam means to think oneself very, very lowly and humble and meek. To think that one is thoroughly useless. In the material world, everyone teaches you to think how great you are. Everyone is teaching you, the whole culture of this world is, you are everything. You can make it in this world. But the devotees of the Lord will teach you, actually you are nothing. You are simply an insignificant speck in this creation. You are 1/10,000th of the tip of a hair. That is the size of the spirit soul. So what have you to be proud of? You are nothing, insignificant speck. Therefore you should simply, with this mood, just take shelter of Krishna and seek his protection. And when such a person is there, Krishna gives all kinds of protection. When Arjuna was frustrated after trying to arrive at his own solutions, then finally he surrendered to Lord Krishna. Earlier he was trying to resist. He was saying, giving so many wonderful reasons why he did not want to fight. But finally, all his own intellectual thinking, what did it lead him to? Bewilderment. He started saying that now I'm perspiring, my hairs are standing on end, tears are flowing from my eyes, my Gandiva bow is slipping from my hand, I do not know what is to be done, I am thoroughly bewildered, grief, intense grief has overwhelmed me, I do not know what is to be done. So he says, Karpanya dosho kahata svabhava prichhami dham dharma sammudha cheta. He says, now, O Arjuna, now I am completely weak. Now I am asking you in this state, you please tell me what is best for me. I don't know anything. I don't know what is in my self-interest. I am helpless now. So you please help me. So unless we realize our helpless state in this material world, we cannot become devotees of the Lord. We cannot become successful in achieving Krishna Bhakti. So the helpless state of mind comes with true knowledge. When we understand that yes, truly we are helpless without Krishna. It is only out of ignorance that we get proud and think that I have everything and I don't need Krishna, I don't need God, I don't need anybody, I can make it on my own. So that is Maya. So a person who is in knowledge becomes very humble. He takes complete shelter of Krishna in this way. So finally, Lord Chaitanya concludes and says, Shad Vidha Sharanagatihi. These are the 6 divisions or the 6 ways of surrender. So we have to apply these 6 principles very carefully in our life. But as we try to apply them, we will see that it is not simply just a theoretical thing. The ways of surrender to God are very deep and very subtle. Therefore, we need superior guidance of people who are present here in this world along with us. Therefore, Lord Krishna says, Tadvidhi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya upadekshanti te jnanam jnaninas tattva darshanaha. He says, you have to approach a bona fide spiritual master. Inquire from him submissively. Render service to him menially. And he will reveal the truth to you. Because he has seen the truth. He is a tattva darshanaha. Because he has realized the truth, he can guide you in the intricacies and subtleties of how the ways of surrender. There are so many obstructions, so many little dilemmas and problems that will come to us in the way of surrender to Krishna. So we need the guidance of a bona fide spiritual master who will keep track of our development, who will guide us, who will inspire us, who will encourage us, point out the pitfalls. So therefore, Lord Krishna says, you cannot surrender to me directly. You have to first surrender to my devotee, who is my representative, who is a spiritual master. You surrender to him and then he will teach you how to surrender to me. So it is only by surrender to the Guru that you can actually surrender to Krishna. So therefore it is of utmost importance that every person seeking his own welfare in the material world must seek out a bona fide spiritual master and surrender to him utterly. And then that spiritual master will take him to Krishna. That is the process at a practical level. Just 500 years ago, Lord Krishna also personally came as Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to demonstrate personally the ways of surrender. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is a very exceptional avatar. Because he's personally demonstrating by his own practical behavior how a devotee of Krishna should be. When Krishna came in other avatars, he was Krishna. Or he was that particular avatar. And he was enjoying. But when Krishna came as Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he was demonstrating how to become a perfect devotee. So, he demonstrated. And what was his demonstration? He inaugurated this Harinam Sankirtan, Yajna. The Yuga Dharma, every Yuga, Satya Yuga, Treta Yuga, Dwapar Yuga, Kali Yuga, has its own Dharma, has its own particular process for realizing God. And the Yuga Dharma for this age of Kali Yuga is Harinam Sankirtan. The Sankirtan Yajna, the sacrifice of the chanting of the holy names of the Lord. So Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was the one who inaugurated this with great emphasis 500 years ago in Bengal, in the land of Navadvip, in Nadia district. And he propagated widely the chanting of the Mahamantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. And he was the one who demonstrated that this is the easiest way. You simply chant the holy name. And that is the way you can develop all these 6 qualities. So Lord Chaitanya, when you see, in just 5 minutes time, when the darshan opens, you will see the deities of Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda in the extreme left. Actually, Lord Nityananda, who is Balaram himself, is in the extreme left. And to our right will be Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is none other than Lord Krishna himself. In what position, what pose do you see them? With their hands raised. What is the significance of their hands being raised? Surrender. Why? What happens in a war? Have you seen when you were a child? You must have seen the movies. When the enemy soldiers, they take a gun and they go to the enemy and they say, yes, now I have defeated you. So what does he say? Hands up. Yes, hands up. So what is the meaning of hands up? Surrender. Yes, I have surrendered to you, now you don't shoot. So no more misery, no more bullets, no more misery. But if you don't surrender, he'll shoot and there'll be intense pain, you may die. Similarly, throwing up of the hands indicates that yes, hands up, I have surrendered to you, Lord Krishna. I have let go all of the shelters and all of the hopes. So don't attack me with your Maya anymore. I don't want to be subjected to all the sufferings of this material world of your Maya energy anymore. I have surrendered to you utterly. Right? So I'm raising my hands. I'm all yours now. So that is the significance of raising the hands, of seeking shelter of the Supreme Lord, utterly. So a devotee who is in that consciousness, he surrenders to the Lord saying that you are my Supreme Lord in all circumstances and you can protect me if you like, or you can kill me if you like. You can do whatever with me as you like. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in his Shikshashtakam prayers has said, Ashli Shiva Padaratam Pinashtumam Adarshanan Marmahatam Karotu Va Yatha Tatha Va Vidadhatu Lampato Mat Prananathastu Sa Evana Paraha. He says, my Lord, you are my Lord unconditionally. In any circumstance, you can embrace me if you like, you can kick me away if you like, you can do whatever you like with me, but you are my Lord unconditionally. Unconditionally being Lord means that I am unconditionally your servant. And I will surrender to you irrespective of how you deal with me. So a surrendered devotee doesn't complain about anything. He simply accepts everything as the Lord's mercy and he executes his devotional service with firm determination, with patience and with faith. So this is the practical process of surrender. So please try to think about what we have discussed today. Try to read and try to practice. And above all, simply try to chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Thank you very much.